Hi everybody, welcome to Let's Make Art, and we are a company that loves watercolor. We love it. It's all we do every week. So we do different projects. We have a subscription, we sell kits, all this really fun stuff. We try and break it down for you. And we are putting together this series for people who are new to watercolor and just giving you some more background information. So this segment that we're going to talk about is color and color theory. Now, first of all, I just want to say color theory, super, super interesting. The different temperatures with colors, the feelings they evoke, super interesting. We could really talk about this for hours, but I'm just gonna give you some general information, which should hopefully help you in terms of like picking color palettes and stuff like that. So the most important things that you need to understand in a color wheel is that generally there's 6 main colors, and there are 3 colors that are primary colors, and those colors are red, yellow, and blue. Primary colors cannot be mixed. So if you have like a purple and an orange, no colors can mix blue, no colors can mix yellow. However, these 3 colors can mix all of the other colors on the color wheel. So if you're not sure what colors to get and you're like, I just want to try some, but I'm not really sure, always go with the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, because you can mix from there and you get a bunch of different colors from those 3 colors. Now, secondary colors are colors that are on the color wheel but are not the primary colors. So those are going to be orange, green, and purple. And those ones are mixed by using the primary colors that are on either side of them. So orange is red and yellow, green is yellow and blue, and purple is blue and red. So those are secondary colors. Again, you can mix those. So if you don't have those colors on your palette or in your tray, don't stress. As long as you have these, you're good to go. Now, the other thing I want to talk about are tertiary colors. Tertiary colors. And those are colors created by using the primary and secondary colors. So like you can see here where these colors are next to each other. You see how I did like these little swatches right here? That's when you combine a primary with the secondary. So for example, this is like an orangey red. And this is like an orangey yellow. And this is like a yellow green. And this is like a blue green. So it has like 2 of those colors in that color. Now this is really important to know because, and you'll notice this more, is that a color can have
It's right there.
When you're looking at something, and especially if you're painting from a reference photo, you might look at that and be like, oh, that's yellow. But then you have to decide, is that an orangey yellow where it's kind of warm? Or is that a green yellow where it's kind of cool? So knowing the temperature of the colors and that secondary color that's in there is really important when you're trying to match colors to reference photos. And I said in term in there that you might be like, well, what is a cool color and what is a warm color? Well, let me show you, Keenan. I know that's what you were thinking.
One of them sounds cozy.
I didn't introduce you in this video.
That's okay.
This is Keenan.
I'm just in the background.
He's in the background running cameras, and he'll ask questions if I don't explain something. So
I'll try to ask questions.
You're doing great. I'm like reading your mind.
Yeah, I know. You're doing a great job.
We're on the same wavelength.
I made a face and you said,
you made a face,
what I mean
and I'm like, let me explain. So if I cover up this part of the color wheel, I have red, orange, and yellow. These are warm colors here. And if you have a painting that has all of these colors, like you can instantly see when I covered up this half of the color wheel, you're like, okay, those definitely feel warm. They tend to be kind of more intense. They evoke a feeling of excitement, that kind of thing. Now, if I cover up this side of the wheel, purple, blue, and green, these are cool colors. They are calming. They're going to make you feel a little chilly, that kind of thing. This is important to know because when you're choosing colors for palettes, it really just depends on what you're going for. But if you have like even colors of cool and warm, that can kind of throw you off a bit because you're like, wait, there's a lot, kind of, I don't know how I should feel. But just kind of keep that in mind. If you're looking at a painting that's like blues and greens and purples and you're like, I don't know, I need some warmth in there, we'll throw in some yellows, maybe a little bit of oranges. It will warm that right up. So don't stress. Now, the other really important thing with this color wheel that you need to know is you need to know the complementary colors. Complementary colors are so important in art because when you put them next to each other, they activate. They work against each other. They're kind of fighting, which can be really interesting in a painting. The other thing that's great about them is they tone each other down when you layer them. Complementary colors are what the color is directly across from each other. So red and green are complementary colors, orange and blue, and yellow and purple. So if I'm mixing a color and I'm doing a bunch of colors, like I know with Let's Make Art, we mix a lot of browns, we mix a lot of blacks. And sometimes when you're mixing those colors together, you're just like, man, this brown, it's brown, but it has like a really strong green tint to it. What do I do? Well, if you put a little bit of red in there, it's gonna tone down that green. It's gonna give you more of a true brown. So they're really magical in the way that you can layer them to tone each other down. You can also mix them to create a really strong brown or black. And if you have them against each other, they activate against each other. So if you have a painting that has a lot of complementary colors, too much, and they're evenly so, it might be like, and this is so weird because we do it subconsciously, but we might be like, whoa, why don't I want to look at that painting? Well, maybe it's just because your complementary colors are too even, and so they're fighting against each other, and those colors are like attacking you almost. So you're just kind of like, whoa, whoa. So, whoa, what's going on? I just don't want to look at it. So it's just something to keep in mind. Now, when you're painting and you're not really sure what colors you want to choose, I notice this with flowers a lot. When I'm teaching a floral watercolor class and I have beginners, I like to paint a flower and then we like to do like line detail work. Now you want to, when you're doing stuff like that, you want to make sure you're using analogous colors. And you're like, Keenan, I read your mind. You're like, what is an analogous color?
Yeah.
Well, those are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So the hues that are next to each other. So for example, if I'm painting a color that is this color right here, this kind of maroon color, then anything on the side of it I can use with it and it's gonna feel like it belongs because they're next to each other. So I'm like, I can add some purple in there, I can add some reds or pinks in there, and they belong to each other. But if I'm using this and then I go ahead and throw in this color as a detail work, people are gonna be like, whoa, what's going on with that turquoise right there? So if you're trying to look for kind of a color palette that's in harmony, keep in mind those analogous colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. They work really well together. They're something great to use. So the other two things that I kind of want to cover is another term that you might see. I know that we actually have a project for Let's Make Art that's called Monochrome Mountains. And monochrome just means that it's one hue, so one color, but it's different values. You might be like, what's a value? The value is just the light and darkness of something. So if you look at this color wheel, I did a value of each color. So if I look at my blue, this is the dark value right here of blue. This is more paint and less water. Here I just added a little bit of water. Now I have a mid-tone value. And then this one is a light value. Now with watercolor, the magical thing about it that I totally love is if you want to make a color lighter, then you just add water to it. That's all you got to do. With regular painting like oil or acrylic or any other kind, you have to have white paint. But in watercolor, we don't really have white paint, or we don't really use it a lot. And that's because we let the water and the paper do a lot of the work for us. So watercolor is transparent, which means you can see through it. And if you add more water to it, then it's going to become more transparent, which means you see the white of the paper. So when you're trying to make a color lighter in watercolor, you're letting the water and the paper do most of that work, because you're just like, I'm just going to add a swatch of water to this and it's going to make it lighter and it's going to be great. So remember that with every tube of watercolor, you are going to get at least three different colors within that. This color and this color came from the same paint, the same tube. The only difference was how much water I used. So if you ever want something lighter in watercolor, you are going to use more water. I think that's everything we need to talk about with color theory. Again, so interesting, so fun, but if you just have a general understanding of the way color wheels work and how to mix colors, then you can have more successful paintings and maybe feel a little bit more confident making your own. So thank you so much for tuning in to our little information on colors. And if you're interested in learning more, we also talk about techniques, materials in some other videos. So go ahead and check those out. Thank you so much. Bye.